Hey guys, what's up? My name is Anthony, and welcome to another edition of BnA Sports Talk. Now, I'm doing draft recaps and season recaps. So today we're gonna do the Bengals. I know it's a little out of order again, but the more I research this team, the more I'm interested in them. So they just hired Zac Taylor as their but they hired him as their head coach during the offseason. And many teams that are writing this team out, including me, a lot of people are writing them out. They're saying, oh, they're obviously last place. But yeah, so last season what happened was they started off really, really good. And then their defense was kind of letting them down the entire season. They had a historically bad defense. They had a new defensive coordinator in Lou. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but it was really historically bad. It's just nobody was on the same page. And he doesn't really have that much experience as a coach, and I think that was the problem. You finally got rid of the guy in Marvin Lewis, who, this team played really well. It's just that they always underperformed in the playoffs. They didn't exceed expectations. They always weren't as good as you thought. And you have Andy Dalton. That I don't think he's a horrible quarterback. I think he's a Joe Flacco, Eli Manning-esque quarterback, where he has a strong arm. He could power you through games. He'll put up some stats for you like Kirk Cousins, but he cannot win games like Eli Manning and Joe Flacco could. He can't. He doesn't really have that many game-winning drives where it's just like, oh yeah, he's the guy. He could take you downfield. I mean, sometimes he has those games, but he's been consistently good. He doesn't have great games. He doesn't have awful games. He's been more recently. He used to have those things. He's been more consistently good. Now, if you have that stable position at your quarterback, you can do some damage. You have Joe Mixon, who's a good running back. You have AJ Green, great wide receiver. He's getting a little older, so you may want to add a little bit more to your wide receiver depth to kind of spread out the field. And then your offensive line is all right. Zac Taylor kind of wants to fix Bobby Hart. He didn't really play well at the Giants, and he didn't really play well last season, but I get if you want to, you had to keep some people. I think you paid him a little bit too much, but, you need to protect Andy Dalton. So I think your offense right now is pretty good. Maybe add a late wide receiver or something. I would not trade up in the draft. Whatever you do not trade up in the draft for Dwayne Haskins, because odds are, this is the year for Andy Dalton. You may want you have Jeff Driscoll as your backup quarterback. You may want somebody else for depth. But I think this team's priority should be defense. They addressed their linebacker position. That was good. They addressed offensive line enough. I think so, at least. So now you need to address your defensive line and defensive ends. You got Vontaze Burfict isn't there anymore. You have Geno Atkins still, but your corners are great. I think your corners are fine. You just need to get pressure on the quarterback, because that was something that really struggled at last year. So if Ed Oliver drops to you, you pick him. Rashawn Gary, you pick him. Montez Sweat, you pick him. You need somebody to get pressure and somebody to create some disturbance for this Bengals defense. Somebody really talented, because I don't think that they're going to coach people up good enough. You need somebody who's mentally stable, not like Pac-Man Jones they had a couple years ago, who loses you games. They need to get people off the field on third downs, because that was a major killer for them last year too. Their defense was pretty much a mess, and you need a stabilizing force. You need somebody who can get pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. You have Ben Roethlisberger in your division. You have Baker Mayfield in your division, and Lamar Jackson. So you need somebody to rush Lamar Jackson, make him make mistakes. As far as your schedule this year, it's pretty rough. I would say it's pretty rough because even though they have one of the easiest on paper, a lot of those teams got better. So you have the Oakland Raiders, Jets, 49ers, who all were like 4-12 or 3-13, those types of records. You have to play your own division. So you're playing the AFC North, which is a pretty tough division as it is with the Browns, Steelers. You guys get the point. And you're also playing some teams in the AFC West. You have the Oakland Raiders, because you both finished 4th place. And I think collapsing and then starting new with a new quarterback next year, or Zac Taylor's going to resurrect Andy Dalton's career, and they'll be chasing a playoff spot, kind of like how the Miami Dolphins did last year, and finish around 8-8. I think their ceiling is 8-8 if everything goes well. But the Bills got better. I think that you have a free win in Miami. I think this is one of the tougher schedules in the league when you look at it compared to last year, because the Browns are better than what they were last year. and the Ravens are about the same, and the Steelers are about the same too. So honestly, your main problems to solve are all on defense. I'm not sure if your defensive coordinator is good just yet because they were so awful last year. They didn't really have that much talent. So with your, like I said, with your 11th overall pick, you don't want to draft really a tight end. I wouldn't trade down in the draft unless you have a team like the Chargers who are offering you somebody so they can get their quarterback in the future. And they're giving you a deal that blows you away, because I think there's so many people at 11, like Rashawn Gary, that you could pick up. Tyler Eifert is not that healthy, and I know you may be tempted to take TJ Hawkinson or Noah Fant, but I don't know. John Ross didn't really pan out at wide receiver as well, so you may look at wide receivers, but I think you can get value in the second round, and I think value in the first round is all in defensive end talent. You have Kerry Wynn, who was pretty successful with the Giants, but I think that that you need to solidify that line, and I think that should be your main priority in the first round. They're in a very similar position to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think, because you have some good offensive talent. You may want to grab a guy or two on offense, but you also have a new coach. Now, I trust Bruce Arians way more than I do with Zac Taylor. I think Bruce Arians is a way better fit with Jameis Winston than Zac Taylor is with Andy Dalton, because I think Andy Dalton, Zac Taylor, is he like Sean McVay where he's going to resurrect somebody's career? Is it going to be kind of like a situation where how Jared Goff is being held down by Jeff Fisher, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh god, Andy Dalton's pretty good. But Andy Dalton, he is not as bad as people think. It's just that he hasn't really performed in the playoffs. Every single time they make it to the playoffs, they lose. And there's something to be said about that. If you can't win in the playoffs, what good are you? I mean, people like Dak Prescott have proven, hey, I can win in the playoffs, even though I need pieces to surround me. I mean, if we have those pieces, we can go to the playoffs and win some games. I mean, Andy Dalton, 10-6, 10-6, 10-6. A lot of those years, you had 10-6. You won the division, I think, once or twice, and then you had a couple wild card stints, but nothing more than that. You can't win those big games. There's nothing flashy about you. You kind of beat yourself, kind of like what the Giants do. But the difference is Eli Manning could win playoff games.
A major question is coaching. You have Zac Taylor, who was a quarterback's coach, but he doesn't have that much experience. This is the make or break year for Andy Dalton. I'm not sure if that was the best idea to bring an inexperienced coach to see if your guy's the guy. But I guess they think Zac Taylor is a good quarterback coach because he did help out Jared Goff a little bit there in Los Angeles, and he apparently was pretty good in Miami. I think that they're not a deadlock for last place in the division. Do I think that they're gonna win the division? No. But you never know what could happen. This is Andy Dalton's make or break year, and we've seen some crazier things happen than Andy Dalton coming back and having a rebound season off his injury. Again, the top three needs I would point out: number one, you have to address the defensive line, help Geno Atkins out, and then you have to go up after another tight end or another wide receiver talent. And then I would say when you have all that, maybe a right, I think either a tackle or a guard. I forget what they need, but definitely help out Andy Dalton and pass protect for him. And then next year, go out and get your quarterback. But if you can get good value for Dwayne Haskins at 11, I'd do that. I wouldn't be surprised if they draft Dwayne Haskins at 11. I don't think they should trade down. I think they should just go with the best defensive player available to build that defensive core up and stop the historically bad defense from last year. So let me know what you guys think the Bengals should do. I know it's not the sexiest team. I had them at 31 in my power rankings, but yeah, any and all opinions would be appreciated, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.